Hi. So I'm going to say something that won't be popular with radical feminists and womanists, and that is that we need to give credit to Shera 7 for changing the narrative or helping to change the narrative in a good way, a positive way, despite the criticism that she's received from more studied feminists. So for some people, this will be a primer on Shera 7 who've never heard of Shera. And then for others, this is a little bit of an appeal, because what I do is I try to look at how the narratives shape the culture and how narratives shape people. And I think Shera 7 has been pivotal for a lot of women. So I want to start with looking at what Shera does. On the surface, this is where she gets her criticism from more radical feminists and womanists. On the surface, she teaches hypergamy, which of course is the quote-unquote art of getting men who have money to court you and basically pay for your time and interest in them, and luxury. She teaches luxury. She wants you to extract things from these men. She has a whole vocabulary around this. I've been watching her for years. I actually am always, she's very funny. So I'm always taken by some of her things. She plays with metaphor a lot. She talks about dusties, the poor guys. Don't be Barbara or Betty the Builder, which is to get with a poor man and try to build him up and then he leaves you, kind of thing. So she teaches luxury in terms of extracting, what to extract from men. Get luxury items. If they want your time, ask them for money. If they want your time or to take you out, ask them for gifts, things like that. She teaches women to look for men who can be providers, obviously. She teaches leverage, which is on the surface problematic because it reduces relationships to kind of an extractive marketplace level. She teaches women to get their money from these men. If they run out of money, you don't see them anymore. She also teaches women boundaries, which is on the surface she does it, and she teaches it implicitly too, which I think actually is a good thing in terms of, don't spend time, your time is valuable, don't give labor, that sort of thing, for free. So again, marketplace talk. She teaches women to not overfunction, not overgive. So again, she talks about, this is through the capitalist lens, our mindset in this culture is very much about selling our hours, selling our skills, selling our labor, and getting money for it. So she teaches that in relation to these men and relationships. She gets women to think about the invisible labor that they do. She talks a lot about all the effort that goes into making yourself look pretty, getting your hair done, your nails done, working on your makeup, getting your, going out and buying clothes, but also the labor that is invisible that you put into men. She's like, don't be a therapist to a dusty. People pay for therapy. Don't be his emotional, cushion or his emotional coach, sort of thing. She also teaches women not to chase. This is all basically what you're looking at on the surface when you listen to Shera 7. She very much is about, he has to value you and want to pursue you, and if he wants time with you, he has to be the one to initiate and pursue you. So basically, relationships as exchange. So it's very extractive, it's very transactional. And I know that feels problematic for a lot of women because it keeps you in a system that basically you're selling yourself in these ways. And, obviously we support that kind of, we call it sex work and stuff, but it goes a little bit deeper than that because for these women, these are things that they've not heard of before, that they've not been taught or, gone in any deep level of study. So let's look at what she's really opening the door to. So she's implied in a lot of these things these lessons that feel just very surface level. See, I think it's a bit of a, you're looking at like a gift and critiquing it because it's not doing all the things that you think women should be liberated from. But you're not looking at the contents. You're not looking at what some of these women who are exposed to Shera 7 are learning to say for themselves that they've never said before. I have cracked glasses. So, for example, I've stopped at a rest stop, and the woman in there cleaning, I could hear on her phone she was listening to a live of Shera. So we kind of talked about it and laughed about some of the things she says. But I'm like, that woman is not going home and trying to study feminism or womanism 101. She's not reading Audre Lorde at home at night when she's taking care of the kids and learning how to, the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. Shera 7 in her ear while she's cleaning toilets at a rest stop. That's liberatory for her. So what she's learning through the lessons that Shera teaches on the surface is she's learning that women deserve reciprocity in a relationship. I deserve things for my labor. It might be unpaid labor, but I deserve things for it. So yes, it feels extractive because of the superficial hypergamy lens. Give me money for my time, give me, whatever. But she's learning I deserve reciprocity. This is not something that I'm just supposed to do as a woman. She's learning that women deserve to be able to establish boundaries. If I say no tonight, or I don't want to go out, or I don't want to spend time with you, I am allowed to say that. A lot of women who get in relationships with men prioritize men, as we've talked about in the previous videos, or I've talked about in the previous videos. So a lot of these women are not recognizing until they hear Shera, like, oh, I can actually say no. I can establish a boundary. My time is mine. I don't owe him anything. Women have not been saying this for a long time. Women's emotional work counts. Shera has surfaced the idea that you are not his therapist. You are not his, pillow to cry into. So, this is another thing. Women are supposed to be behind every good man is a good woman. Implied in that is you're doing this emotional labor to support him when he's not bonding with his friends and talking about this stuff. He's coming home and bringing it to you, talking about whatever's going on and belaboring it, crying over it, needing advice. He's coming to you for it while you've spent your whole day dealing with kids or dealing with your own job or dealing with your own issues. So she's learning that her emotional work counts for something. Women learn that they're not rehab centers. It's not my job to make him a better man. If he has an issue, he needs to go get it taken care of. It's not my labor to help him with whatever he needs to spend time and labor and energy and sweat, blood, and tears getting off of or dealing with. Women also have learned through Shera, who says it all the time, get rid of him, get rid of him. Women come into lives all the time asking, what if he's doing this and he's done that, and for years he's never done this and he's not. Shera bluntly says, dump him. There are other men, or get another man. Get yourself basically implying to threaten that guy. Get yourself a sugar daddy or whatever. So, but moreover, women learn they can leave. They don't have to put in 25 years. I can't tell you how many boomers are divorcing in their 60s and 70s because they never realize I can just leave and be my own person. Women can choose. Women can become economically independent. I mean, that's a big focus of Shera's. She's always talked about creating her own businesses and keeping her own money, and women haven't thought of that. Women get resources and it goes back out to help the family, the community, whoever needs it. Women always learn to be nurturing, or we're taught by the culture and often by our families to be nurturing and giving. So Shera has taught women, you need to have your own so that you can be on your own, so you can learn to, support yourself in case he dies or you need to leave him or he becomes abusive. So this is not the marketplace. These are ideas that these women who have never been exposed to the studies and the books, and the common rhetoric that some of us who are critical of Shera, these are ideas implied in the lesson she's teaching. She's saying it in the cloak of capitalism and economic speak, but the underlying lessons are vital to some of these women that, you know, would never get there otherwise. They have learned the sort of Prince Charming, serve your man lesson from birth, from early on. So I call it the Shera shift. Before, women, and some of them still come to her and ask this, how do I get him to love me? She is not interested. I mean, she removes emotions from it. I'm not in agreement with this, but in terms of what activism does, she's a catalyst for a lot of these women. So she has shifted a lot of the common questions of how do I get him to love me? How do I keep him? How do I get his attention? She's shifted it to, what is this relationship costing you? That is a tremendous shift for in the mainstream rhetoric or discussions. That is a tremendous shift for a lot of women that they have not experienced. So, you know, as I say, Shera has done some things. So let me just acknowledge that a lot of the criticism that Shera gets is fair and reasonable, because it flattens relationships and puts it in terms of the marketplace. But you have to recognize she's taking the architecture that we're living in, capitalism, and she's saying, all right, everybody identifies with capitalism. We all know what it means to sell our hours. We all know what it means to sell our labor. We all know what it means to sell our skills. So she's naming those skills, naming that labor. She's giving these women terminology using recognizable architecture, recognizable language through which to see their relationships. She's shifted that mythology of, you know, the I mean, who said it? I forget who said it, but that these Prince Charming tales, they were all created for men, poor men, to be able to get basically servants at home. So yes, she uses transactional language, and yes, it reduces and flattens relationships through the lens of capitalism, patriarchal thinking, which is very hierarchical, and we already know that capitalism and patriarchy are intrinsically entwined. Marketplace, and then you see things in relationships in terms of scarcity. Well, I did this for you. What did you do for me? You are supposed to do this gendered labor. You're supposed to go out and do this. You're supposed to protect the home. You're supposed to go mow the lawn. You're supposed to, you know, okay, what do I owe you? So it's very reductive, and it's all about the scarcity of resources and who's getting what in the exchange. So it's a very myopic view, except it is a first step in activism. So let's take a look at what activism, because this is where I think a lot of feminists and womanists who have been steeped in activism kind of lose the plot. We already know, like, it's radical to say, let's extract ourselves from this entire narrative. Let's extract ourselves from the patriarchy. Let's see what we can build. But a lot of women are not there yet. You can't expect a lot of these women who are born into this and have never been exposed to these ideas to just go from, oh, I'm supposed to get Prince Charming, to I'm going to leave the entire thing and ditch my family and ditch all my responsibilities and that sort of thing. So in terms of activism, Shera has done stage one. She is stopping, she's interrupting the exploitation of these women through teaching what we call hypergamy, or through teaching, you know, recognizing the labor, the invisible labor, and naming it that women do, and saying, get something for that labor. Me, I'm interested in what happens when relationships stop organizing around buyers and sellers. I'm interested in, you know, the lesbian relationship and non-traditional female groupings and pairings, which we can talk about later. So I want to acknowledge that, but as someone who's lived as a lesbian for quite a long time, that's the lens I talk through, or see through. But there are women who are doing non-traditional relationships now, best friends, pairing up, buying a house together, groups of women I've heard, you know, bought a house in Paris and they timeshare it together, they all own it. Groups of women who are buying plots of land and putting tiny houses on them. So there are non-traditional women who are doing this kind of relating. And we're talking about relationships, so I want to acknowledge that. But for me, lesbian relationships are the default relationship where the organizing principle symbolically is removed, the man. the one that everything is gendered around, everything is focused on. We've been taught to focus on male desires and wants and getting his approval and pleasing him and fulfilling his fantasies or whatever. So what I'm interested in is, yes, Shera focuses on exchange. I want to focus on what does mutual recognition in a relationship look like? And I think I'm not saying lesbian relationships are perfect, not by any stretch of the imagination, but once you remove that symbolic element of the male, of the patriarch, what changes? What's different? What can we learn from those relationships? And these lessons, I think, don't have to just apply to lesbians. I'm just saying the lesbian relationship you can learn something from it, and men can learn from it too. So, things can change. So in summary, let's just say Shera teaches women how to regain leverage in an unequal system. And I'm interested in what relationships look like when that unequal system is no longer the organizing principle. I don't know if you can see that, but as always, I take pictures of my whiteboards and they're in the comments if you're interested. And I think it's time to kind of acknowledge not every bit of activism is pure and clean. And what Shera has done, even if you don't agree with the things she says, you have to look at the effect of what she's had on the culture and how she has helped women change the dynamics of their relationships. It's quite important. And this is so long. See you in the next video.